On tonight's Cover One Buffalo podcast, we are joined by the Bruce Exclusives' own Bruce Nolan. But first, our guys, Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how'd you like our new video intro?
I loved it, dude. A good friend of ours, Mike Thomas, helped us out getting this set up for us. He's got a video guy. We'll post in the show notes his site.
Drew S. Carter Videography hooked us up. That was pretty cool. I was pretty pleased with it.
Throw that in the show notes. Yeah, hooked us up. Looks great. Looks way better. It's one less thing for me to do too, because I just did that Ken Burns graphic that everyone's had to sit through for 30 seconds for a year. So I appreciate the people watching now. I'm assuming are appreciating a little bit more animation in our intro.
A little more dynamic.
Yeah, that's us.
My second question, did you have any sources that told you whether someone was injured or not this morning?
I want to be careful because I do like everybody involved. I don't care anymore about how other people make their content. I just don't. I've rarely seen anyone get into this source game and not get burnt by it at some point. But people definitely tell me things, but I'm like, I don't want any part of this. I do not need to break news first. I'm good in my little niche space.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, Eric doesn't have 15 different Bills players on and not get inside information sometimes. But our constant refrain is, Cover One's not in the news breaking business. We just don't sometimes we know stuff.
Yeah.
We'll hint at stuff. We'll drop stuff in the Discord channel and let people know ahead of time. But we're just not in the news breaking business. And you see today, that is a slippery slope. And I know I'm not even going to, I don't want to, make a big deal of it. I even dropped those guys a note in DMs to be like, hey, I know you guys probably thought you were sharing info you thought was good. It's going to be a rough week, but
they've been right a bunch too.
Yeah.
Everyone's
this is gonna suck, but you'll be fine.
Oh yeah. It's not that big of a deal, to be honest. We're just all quick to pile on people on the internet whenever anyone slips up with a mistake. I'm sure our friends at Trainwreck are feeling good that somebody else took laid on the grenade there for a little bit.
Helmet's good. It won't get washed away. Nobody has to worry about it.
Absolutely, yeah. We've all had our L's, man.
Yeah. All right. So tonight we are having the final episode of our position preview as we go through every single position group on the team. We saved the best for last. And who better to talk about safety play than our own friend and dear colleague, Bruce Nolan. Bruce, how we doing?
My guys, it is a party all the time. Disco balls, dancers, dubstep, and defense. Let's do it. Let's talk about the stuff.
Well, I was going to say, there's a few people that we have on the show. Cody Alexander's a guy that the fans know that I'm always reaching out to talk DBs, but you're one of the only other ones that I will specifically in my watching looking at DBs, because I know that you and I share, we're not always in agreement, right? We've had disagreements of how much speed the Bills need or what are they going to do, transition into more things philosophically. But I think we have an appreciation for the positions and probably no more so than safety, right? And so what I want you to tell kind of people is how little do we know about the safety position? Because it's really kind of the one that you just don't see that. If you're just watching the broadcast, you don't get a great sight at what the safeties are actually doing. So where's your appreciation for this position come from?
I think it's taken a jump in recent years, because I think what you're seeing the gap start to widen between people who watch all 22 and people who don't, and people who know what they're watching and people who don't. And that's not me, putting down anybody else. It's just that from a broadcast angle, and you said it yourself, the safeties are the ones you see the least of, unless they are either at the catch point vertically or they're coming downhill. And so you don't see off the menu, you don't see any of that stuff associated with what you consider to be good safety play. I am not entirely sure that it's actually possible to watch a game on television and come away with a good idea of how a safety played. Like I just don't think it's possible.
It's
truthfully.
hard.
And I'm sitting there, Aaron, you and I have had messages about this before. It typically takes me 8 minutes or so to diagram a single play, just one play, right? Just to go, okay, this is the projection. These are the route concepts. This was the coverage. And that's assuming for a second that I have to like, okay, I got a coverage. I think I know what it is. But you know how many times you go, what am I looking at here? Because if one person does something different than what you're expecting, you're like, was it a mistake? Was it a call? Was this cover 6 or was it quarters and someone moved out of position? Like, I don't know what that is. And so I think that safety becomes this nuanceical sort of position where nuanceical, by the way, that's a word. I just made it up.
I like
that.
I'll allow it.
For me, it's one of those things where the sample size is so small and we lean on splash plays and flash plays, whether good or bad, so significantly in our evaluation of safeties. You see a guy miss an angle one time and you go, oh, terrible game. You know, he had 70 other snaps that game and you didn't see him except for 2 times. Yeah. And so it's really a tricky position. And I think it's one of the things that gives me such a great appreciation for it. In addition, because it's a high leverage position. Like the reason why you see those things is because if you screw up, that's a 60-yard gain, right?
It's
high
why
leverage,
guys like
low
Earl
visibility.
Thomas got so much attention is that when you close like that and you're constantly putting yourself at the catch point or closing out those things that looked open, fans see it in real time. Guys who are actually exceptional in coverage in preventing throws from happening, you don't know that until you then go back and look. And even then, if you don't know what the first read was, what those different options were, it's hard to tell who is taking away what that prevented a throw from happening. And it just random aside, how nice is Prime Vision? Like where you get,
oh my gosh, it's so great.
Is it like I
every single game, please.
If they added like a premium upcharge where you could watch in that, they would immediately rake in a ton of money.
Yeah, I would pay for it immediately.
Yeah, and Bruce, even within this position, I've even found in people that watch tape, some of the conversations that I've had with them is like, I know this is another thing you and I constantly talk about when PFF evaluates defensive backs in general. It's always on targeted plays, right? And I think even in the All-22, people skip a lot of the plays where the ball's not there. And I think some of the best safety work oftentimes is done in the plays where the ball's not even coming their way, where it's just what position did they have to get into, especially in the Sean McDermott Babbage defense. Not as much last year, but in the past where they're requiring the safeties to sort of move around and dictate those looks. Some of the best stuff happens when it's not even a target or a play that would get graded by PFF.
Truthfully, it's the number one reason why I essentially wipe the menu. I cannot use PFF coverage grades for exactly that reason. I just can't. It's too significant. It's not one of those flaws you can just accept and kind of work around it. It's so egregious that I can't deal with it. I can't do it. As far as the coverage grades are just gone, right? And I can have my little issues with other parts of the grading system thing, but as far as the coverage grades go, I'm completely out. Sorry, I'm completely out of it.
You're penalizing players for doing their jobs.
Correct. An untargeted play is a really good thing if you're the reason the play was untargeted.
Yeah.
And so an untargeted play where I got burned and it just happened to get lucky the quarterback didn't see him or made a bad throw, that's very different than the quarterback intended to throw it to my guy, but I took it off the menu for him. Right. And both those things are viewed equally in that system. And that's the type of thing where you need to be able to see it. You need to be able to see the route concepts and go, oh, okay, they threw rock and we threw paper. And because of that, they had to go with something else.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, lizard, scissors, Spock, right?
So yeah, it's just right there. Same idea. So as we kind of pivot into the news here, and before we break down the specific players, I know we wanted to talk a little bit about what Aaron and I hinted at early on, and obviously it was very dramatic in seeing the reaction yesterday with Max Hairston, seeing the, his reaction to the players around him, people talking about anytime players say non-contact, it freaks you out. We tell you saying a prayer for him, the way that they were all approaching him. And then the reports this morning, I think finding out that it was LCL injury, one of the least commonly reported knee injuries and that we may be in a matter of weeks. I know some people threw out their 3 weeks. This sounds kind of aggressive to me, but I immediately thought of the corollaries with Cole Bishop last year, where he ended up coming back and being available, but now Max Harrison isn't realistically going to compete for a starting spot in preseason. This is now pretty much going to, hand things to Trey White. Maybe last week we talked about Dorian Strong. Maybe this is a chance for Dane Jackson to make the roster. There's going to be some different things that direction that could have some, cascading impacts here. But just what were your first thoughts of, now whether it's with what happened to Cole Bishop last year and seeing that second year slingshot? I've kind of got my mind around the fact that that's what we're going to just plan for is, hey, Harrison will be there in case somebody gets hurt. Maybe we see some struggles and he has to jump in mid-season, but I'm basically like, all right, he'll be a luxury this year, and then we'll get the second year slingshot like I think we're going to get with Bishop that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I think it's really fair. And I think that the idea that this doesn't take him off the menu for starting at some point, but it does take him off the menu for starting early. I think that's completely fair. I do think that you could look at that and go, well, then what's the difference, right? He tore an ACL, he's available versus he didn't tear an ACL. It's because specifically with defensive backs, athleticism is so important, and multiple lower body injuries. We've seen what happened with Tre'Davious White and how he was just starting to round into form before he got another injury and things like that. ACLs, you're back the next year, but you're usually at yourself for a year and a half or two. Yeah. And so an LCL sprain might take him off the menu to start early. And I think that's probably appropriate. But an ACL tear would have taken him off the menu for this entire year. And we probably still wouldn't have gotten the best version of Maxwell Hairston until maybe halfway, almost all the way through year 2, maybe even year 3. So yeah, I understand that it's probably disappointing from that function, but it could have been a lot worse. And I'll take that as a W for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. My outlook on it when I first saw the news today was like, it's not best case scenario, but as close to as you can. Like, this is something I think he'll recover for, be ready for. And honestly, the way camp has sort of gone, I know he's getting reps there, but it seems like it's at least they're trying to make him pry it out of Trey White's hands. I don't think they're handing it to him. And so this might even be easier for the coaching staff here to start off I think they want to lean towards Trey, that he's shown that he's back to some functioning capacity that they can trust in that spot. And so I think that this kind of makes it a little easier for the coaching staff to at least start that process with him. And then Harrison can ramp up and he'll probably get a chance. Somebody's going to get dinged up at the cornerback position before the year's out, whether it's a game or more. So I think he'll be healthy enough come the time where he gets a chance to have a chance. And to Bruce's point, there's no significant injury here where there's a rehab process and a year and a half potential process. And when you're dealing with a rookie, it's like one thing when you have a vet who you can count on, can probably bounce back and do all the right things. With a rookie, like, he hasn't had significant injury like that before. Like, how would he respond to that? How would he respond to the rehab? None of those questions are ones that we're going to have to deal with here going forward.
So, shout out to our sponsors over at Southern Tier Brewing Company. Aaron and I actually had a very fun meeting earlier today, planning a live show at one of their locations. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe on a Saturday night before one of our games coming up here, we'll be able to get together and have some fun. So keep an eye out for some more details there. Excited to be working with them all season long. So go on over, check out Southern Tier Brewing Company, and check them out in our show description here below.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And actually, Greg will be popping some fancy drinks. Maybe it sounds like here this fall.
I'm working on it.
Trying to get some good stuff.
The only thing better than good stuff is free good stuff. So I just double bonus.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce. Now for the position itself here. And as we talk through, we'll kind of start like we normally do in each of these shows from kind of the back forward. And I kind of started out that I was under the impression that this was going to be pretty wide open. At one point, I thought, Jordan Hancock might be competing at safety. Wande Owens was talked about as one of the, more intriguing undrafted free agents. We signed a kind of physical phenom in Darrick Forrest, who had some really intriguing flashes earlier. Obviously, Aaron and I butted heads on how good, but Damar Hamlin was a starting safety for the vast majority of last year. Cole Bishop year 2 and Taylor Rapp with the impact he was making. I was like, this is wide open. It's going to be, tons of guys competing and we'll see who ends up taking the starting spots. And now way earlier than I expected. It seems really defined. Hancock and Cam Lewis are competing for backup nickel, it seems like. Benford and Bishop are starting the vast majority of the time. Dane's Damar's pretty locked in there as safety 3, and it seems like Darrick Forrest is pretty locked in at that 4th safety. Am I reading too much into what we've seen so far and it's too early for that, or does it kind of seem that way for you too?
It seems that way for me too, and I want to take a second to point out how strange this is. So let's talk about it. The Bills brought back a safety who was a starter last year, who immediately slots into not being a starter this year. So it's a super rare thing we're describing. Okay. So it's not like you have a vet on a multi-year deal and they're being replaced by a highly drafted rookie that you see all the time. And it's not like you had a 1-year free agent that then left. And of course, oh, look, we have a rookie to fill a spot. No. You had a young free agent starter who went, tested the market, turned around, came back, signed a deal, and slotted in as a backup. Like, that's super rare. Like, I don't feel like we're talking about it all. What I'm just describing is a super weird thing. It's almost like we brought you back. They signed him for a deal that was not indicative of a strong safety market deal. Like, you didn't have Damar Hamlin sign this deal and thought, oh, wow, they clearly think like he's going to be the starter for the next 3 years. Cole Bishop, who? Like that wasn't the deal with his contract. He comes in and immediately slots into a backup role. And so it's super weird that there's basically not even a real competition being happening right there. I mean, Cole Bishop is walking off the bus in his 2nd year as a starter, and he essentially has to lose the job. And so, yes, I think that's true, but I also think we should take a second to recognize how weird that is. It's how unique and uncommon what we're seeing is actually happening.
I'll speak to it a little bit in regards to Damar. I think from conversations I've had in him testing the market, Greg and I have had this conversation. I've defended his adequacy in the NFL. And I say that in like a sort of a joking way, using the word adequate. And I actually don't think people realize what kind of achievement it is to perform at an adequate level in the NFL, especially at the safety position. I watch a lot of safety play, and we see a lot of splash plays from guys that also aren't as good as people think they are, play in and play out at the safety position. And so it's a tough position to play. And I think he's very specific to like a Bills type scheme. And I don't know that there's a lot of that out there, right? He comes from the pit scheme, played in that well. He is a mediocre athlete, and those guys can probably only play in so many schemes in terms of what the NFL wants safeties to do. So I think he had a fit here. And also in some of the conversations I had, I think he is a guy that knows what his role can be, and that sometimes the situation you have is better than a little more money to go to another situation that maybe isn't as good for you, or you don't slot in as well in a situation like that. So it's weird, but when you kind of know the player, it sort of makes sense. Like, he was thrust into that starting role due to injury of Cole Bishop last year. I think the Bills they drafted Cole Bishop with the vision of being a starter. So him coming off a starting season is more, he took advantage of availability.
So as we take a look at that structure there, let's talk about Cole Bishop. Let's talk about where that expectation is. And I'm going to use it kind of as our launching point for our friends over at William & Harlow offices. When we talk about who's here to help, I was, going to talk about this with like, hey, do we think Darrick Forrest could, win a starting job? And now it's like, hey, our hope for improvement and for more consistent play is a year 2 leap for Cole Bishop. Do you expect to see that?
I do. And the reason why I expect to see that is because the Bills are in a really strange position where Sean McDermott can pull up his red phone anytime he wants and call and get, as Aaron Quinn mentioned, adequate safety play. Anytime he wants, he can press the button and get adequate safety play, which means the fact that Cole Bishop walked off the bus and is just now the presumed starter, like they're not even pretending there's a competition, means that Sean McDermott has the ability to press the button and get adequate safety play and chose not to. That to me tells me that there's a ceiling there that he thinks is ready, because let's be honest, Sean McDermott's not exactly in the habit of just throwing people out there for fun, right? Like, oh, well, he's a young player. Let's toss him out there. I mean, Tre'Davious White stepped off the bus as a starter. Tremaine Edmonds stepped off the bus as a starter. But, I mean, Ed Oliver didn't. Matt Milano didn't. It wasn't like they just walked off the bus and all of a sudden they're getting a ton of snaps, right? They played, but they weren't like dominant. Oh, lockdown. This guy's the guy. You have to pry it from his cold, dead hands. That's the case right now with Cole Bishop. And given the fact that you have it's not like you have an aging, declining vet sitting behind Cole Bishop. You have a stable, adequate floor that can come in and give you adequate safety play because you saw it last year. You have the button to press to get a floor and you're choosing not to do it. That's why I think that there's a ceiling there for Cole Bishop because Sean McDermott clearly does. And if there's one thing in the world that even people who are avid Sean McDermott detractors should agree on, it's that he knows what he's doing when it comes to defensive backs. Yeah. And so if he has the ability to go get himself adequate safety play anytime he wants and is passing that up in favor of Cole Bishop, that gets me excited.
Well, I want to ask about Cole Bishop because I think my here to help with him is a schematic idea of what the Bills can do at the safety position. And I was at camp this past week, but with my boys, so I didn't get to watch in as much detail as I wanted to. And that's one thing maybe that I'm frustrated with the lack of reporting that I've seen. And I know the Bills don't want this information to get out, but it is sort of what they're doing with the safety position. Because since Poyer and Hyde left, obviously Sean McDermott hasn't been able to do the exact types of things he would like to do in terms of disguising coverage. I know the Bills have sort of slowly sunk off the top list of teams that disguise coverage and some of the games that they play with the safeties. Do you think that athleticism of a Cole Bishop paired with I also think fans are a little bit low on where Rapp is when healthy and playing. I think he's a much higher end safety than people give him credit for. But with the two of their athleticism, that's something that they haven't had in a long time at the safety position. Do you think that Sean McDermott is erring on the side of like, well, maybe there's still some mistakes as a young player to make, but that high-end athleticism, the ceiling, as you mentioned, can allow us to do some more things in the defense that we've kind of were handcuffed the last year or two?
Yeah, I think that you can get so far with a base of being smart, right? And being where you're supposed to be that. I think that you saw that. I don't want to pivot to a CB conversation, but I kind of want to do here. You saw that. You know where I'm going with this. I'm going with Levi Wallace, right? And I'm going with Dane Jackson. And you again defended the adequacy of that play, but the floor in Sean McDermott's defense is given to you by the fact that you're where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, right? You can't run the amount of palms coverage that you want to run and not have people go, hey, like I need to be able to quickly read what's happening here and get to the spot I need to get to, right? I've said before that the defensive coverages in the NFL, you don't want to admit it, but there's a lot of rock, paper, scissors to it, right? I throw this, you throw this. And the key to being able to disguise coverages is, quite frankly, I want to be able to throw something that looks like something else. I want to throw a rock that looks like scissors, right? Like that's the key. Like imagine if you're sitting there and you have the ability to throw a rock that actually looks like scissors. Like that's a huge game changer in the game of rock, paper, scissors. It's the same thing here, but you can only do that if you have smart players. So that provides you the floor, but the floor has not held up in the playoffs. The floor has not held up to great quarterbacks and great offenses. And it's not that you have to lock down great quarterbacks and great offenses because everyone assumes they're great for a reason. Yeah. But let's at least just not get run out of the building, right? In the playoffs behind great quarterbacks. And so because of that, I need to extend my ceiling. And so what do? You get smart players who also happen to be great athletes. And as much as we love Michael Hyde and as much as we love Jordan Boyer, they're both fine athletes relative to their position. And the floor was established by the fact that they were smart players. So Sean McDermott goes, okay, it's not enough anymore. Now I need smart players who are also really good athletes.
When you talk about earlier, when you were talking about some of the challenges of grading safety play, some of those disguised coverages, you don't get what's there in a positive grade because you're the one who caused the sack because you confused the quarterback for the extra half second where they couldn't go to their first read because they were not expecting you to be there. They hold the ball, they get sacked. That doesn't go as a positive coverage play, but in the film room the next day, they're going to identify. They're like, oh, hey, great job, Cole. You pop back into that spot where he was going to immediately read. He couldn't take the slant. And all of a sudden, as he held that ball, pivoted here, Ed beat his guy, got the sack. Great job. And that's something that you're never going to be able to see there. And having that ability back, I know Eric was always adamant about there was way less of the, Poyer's the strong safety, Micah's the center fielder. They were much more interchangeable than that. I love the idea of being able to get back to, hey, you have no idea which guy's playing which role. You can play back and forth. You have the physicality for both of them. You have the speed and athleticism for both of them. And I think now getting back to that with Bishop, and we'll talk about Taylor Rapp in just a second, that kind of structure is exciting. And I think that's there. Where are you on Taylor Rapp as far as the splash plays versus the consistency? I know when I did my rewatch series, those multiple 4-point plays that he made during that stretch, where it was multiple, games, not game saving, but big time tackles that ended up stopping it to a long touchdown. And then we hold for the field goal or a breakup in the end zone on a play that ends up in a field goal. A lot of really nice high-end plays, but then also some inconsistency here or there. Where are you at as a Taylor Rapp appreciator?
It's been a roller coaster for me and Taylor Rapp. When the Buffalo Bills signed him, I was very excited because I thought highly of what I had seen from him as far as splashes with the Rams. And then I didn't feel super great about his first year here in Buffalo. I was like, I was a little underwhelmed by what I had seen. And yeah, you had the friendly fire stuff and things like that. But overall, I was just okay with it. And then they re-signed him to a deal that made it seem like maybe he was going to be a starter. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't feel great about it. But again, I should have learned my lesson. It's Sean McDermott. He signed a defensive back. I should just go, yeah, it's probably going to work, right? And sure enough, I think that what you saw last year was an extrapolation of some of the stuff that you saw when he was with Los Angeles. And so I think what I mean by that is that you still saw some of those splash plays, but it didn't extrapolate into those things happen all the time. It just happened into there can consistently happen enough that he can provide value to this defense. And I think that's ultimately what you get from Taylor Rapp. Is I think you do get some inconsistencies, but you do get those splash plays that matter. And the NFL is about generating positive big plays for your line of scrimmage, period. Right? So generate big negative plays if you're a defense and generate big positive plays if you're an offense, right? The idea that you're going to consistently win 3 yards in a cloud of dust is just, it's not a thing in the NFL. Because technically, if you got 3 yards every play, you'd win the game, right? But that's not how this works. And so being able to generate explosive negative plays is a big deal on defense, and he can do that. I do think that I'm hoping that you're able to see a little bit more consistency from him this year, because the first year he's back up. Second year, it's just, okay, he's in the defense now. We got him under contract. He's got a little minute to kind of work through this. I don't think Jordan Poyer was Jordan Poyer right away for the Buffalo Bills either. And I compare those contracts very favorably to each other. And so I think that this is an opportunity for him to take the next step. It's not like he was starting a ton of games when he was with the Rams. So I think there's still room for development on the Rapp side.
Is this crazy of me to say that I think Rapp is closer to the Jordan Poyer that we saw than maybe a lot of fans realize? I think for him, it's staying healthy. I think the friendly fire has biased a lot of fans against Rapp and his play. But I think the high end's there. I think he's a top 10. You talked about those big plays in Havoc. I think he was 14th, right behind Antoine Winfield Jr. in Havoc rate for the year. And he's not far from a Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton was 10th. And I think if he was healthy for the entire season and played all the games, I think he would have fallen in the top 10 in Havoc, because you do get a little bit of pushback from Havoc for not having all your games played. And when he was playing at the prime of the season, he was in the top 5 in that category. And so he's making big plays, and it's not just the interceptions and stuff, it's tackles for loss, diagnosing. I think he's there, but he doesn't have the Micah Hyde to go with him to sort of, like, Poyer on his own made a lot of plays and he was beloved in Buffalo, but it took a while for both he and Hyde to get the recognition they deserved as a top safety unit, because neither one of them at certain times was playing the most elite level. It was, they were playing elite together as a group, and it lifted each other. They kind of, the rising tide raises all boats the way they were playing together. And I think that Rapp is playing at a higher level, but again, Damar was more of a floor adequate level and didn't have somebody to kind of play with him, where Cole Bishop shows at least the idea of a Cole Bishop and the athleticism, maybe that he could be that high to Rapp's Poyer.
I would not be mad if Cole Bishop ended up being the Hyde to Rapp's Poyer. I think
or even a poor man's version.
Yeah. I'd be fine with it. I think that ultimately the job of a safety is to do two things, right? It's to generate positive explosives for their side of the defense and then not give up those other things, not be out of position, right? So I want to have my key and I want to eat it too. I want to generate big plays and I don't want to give up big plays. And that's quite frankly, an unfair expectation of safeties, because you have to take risks to make big plays, and risks are going to cost you big plays. So it's about a value proposition, right? When we were evaluating Josh Allen very early in his career, one of the metrics that I used just colloquially to describe Josh Allen's game was how many plays did he make that an average quarterback couldn't make? And then how many plays did he miss that an average quarterback wouldn't miss? It's that ratio, right? And that's kind of the way I view my safeties, right? How many positive plays did you make that an average safety probably doesn't make? And then how many plays did you miss that an average safety probably doesn't miss? And so I think that Rapp gave us a positive in that one. So I'm down with that. I'm greedy, so I want more, but yeah.
I agree. Oh, Greg, you're muted. He did this during a meeting too. Came on during a meeting, all muted. Come on, Greg.
It's unprofessional.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up here, any surprises here? Do you think there's anything from a Darrick Forrest sneaky role here? Do you see anything that has an opportunity for any surprise, or do you think is spelled out as what it looks like, and just we're gonna have all our hopes in the structure of what's here? I know we've seen some things before. It's been pretty specifically in the Chiefs game, but some other defenses have now made more of a shift in that 3 safety look coming in more often. Do we think that that's something Damar could come in and do? Do we think we add in something there if Jordan Hancock makes a bigger role as the backup nickel? Maybe they want to get him on the field. I was calling and passing downs for more of that 3-2-6, where we have 3 defensive linemen, keep both linebackers, but bring in the third safety while still having the nickel on there, kind of a different dime look. Is there anything that you could see as a new wrinkle or something where Damar getting on the field or Forrest athleticism give us anything else to see, or do you expect it to be pretty much what we've gotten used to?
Ironically enough, I think that the new wrinkle could be pushed along or accelerated by the Hairston injury, because there are certain types of defensive coverages that you probably don't want to have Tre'Davious White on the field for if you can avoid it. And so there are things there where you go, okay, if let's say I want to do off man, right? The worst thing Tre'Davious White probably does is off man coverage, right? So that was something that Maxwell Hairston projected as being a really, really good fit in. So this opens an opportunity now. I don't want to say it like it's somehow a silver lining, but I'm doing that, toxic positivity thing. I'm just Ted Lasso. And so for me, I think that if you're going to see it, you're going to see it early, and you're going to see it because I think Darrick Forrest is a good player. I mean, people don't remember this because they don't follow other teams. They thought Darrick Forrest was like a dude. Like early on in his career in Washington, they were like, this is the guy. Like he's the dude. Then he gets hurt. He gets jumped. You never hear from him again. He hits the free agent market as kind of this guy used to be a thing. It's like, hey, remember Linsanity? It's like one of those things. This was a thing for a minute here. So for me, I think there's a possibility there. And I think it hinges on Hairston availability, how they feel about Tre'Davious White across the gamut of different coverages that they want to run. And also Jordan Hancock. Jordan Hancock running as a corner and not a safety changes the dynamic here. I think that bumps Darrick Forrest to, I think he's comfortably safety 4. And then that in turn trickles into, okay, if we wanted to do 3 safeties, we could.
I'm having a tough time with this one, guys. I think the role of a Cam Lewis and that utility defensive back to Sean McDermott is so valuable as a game day chess piece in terms of active roster. You have a guy that can play special teams. He can play in the nickel if Taryn gets hurt and be your backup fourth safety in the event that you need that. Obviously, I don't think any of us want to see Cam Lewis playing safety, but the Bills seem to be confident in like if he's safety four. I think that positional flexibility, versatility is such a asset to the Bills on a game day roster that it might even push back a little. That's how it seems like it's playing out to me here this summer, is that versatility of Cam being able to do that stuff. And you saw, I think this week, Hancock got a couple reps at the safety position. So I think they're trying to mold him into that same role. Maybe I got a little bit ahead of myself in that he was coming in to take over that job. It seems like Cam Lewis has still got his hands pretty much on that utility job, but Hancock's being groomed to do that. But I think that that position is sort of like its own isolated bubble in the DB room, sort of like a Reggie Gilliam. He can play some tight end. He can do all these things, be a special teamer. That's super valuable to this coaching staff on the, if you're going to be on the bottom of the roster, man, the more hats you can wear, we can kind of use you better for that game day spot. So I don't know your guys' thoughts there.
There's been enough reports of him making plays that, you know, I think he's going to continue to keep himself there. But I do think there is a serious numbers crunch coming for this roster, and we're going to get more than one surprise release. That Jessica just said it right here. I just don't know the likelihood of Cam Lewis getting claimed. I'll have to look real quick.
It's never happened.
If he's hit his vested veteran level to where he actually can't be claimed.
Right.
He's got to be getting pretty close there. Yeah, he is. So he is a vested veteran. So he's not, he wouldn't be claimed. He's not, he doesn't get waived. He just gets released, and they could obviously assure him he could come back there. I think it's more in play, and just because some good players are going to be released here.
There's some combination of 13 defensive backs. Like, the team's not going to keep them, right? So there are going to be some decent players who are cut. I mean, Benford, Jackson, Strong, Bishop, Hamlin, Rapp, Hancock, Forrest, Hairston, White, Ingram, Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis. Folks, everyone I just mentioned is someone who could make the team, right? Like, and because of that, I mean, you saw the Bills like Jamarcus Ingram. I think he played well last year. And now all of a sudden he's like basically a forgotten player. Now I know you could probably feel comfortable slipping him through the practice squad, but I just went 14 deep on that one. I mean, it's a big deal that you're going to have players out there who are good players who are going to get cut. It's maybe the most inflated room on this entire roster is the defensive backs.
Maybe if the two suspensions weren't in play, but defensive line would be right there.
Right there.
With it. But I would guess that probably Max Harrison just gave them a freebie on the new rules of how you can put somebody on the in-season IR early on. They're like, hey, Max, we're going to sit you here for the first couple weeks. I could see that being a scenario where it's just roster management to be able to have him there. But beyond that, I listed it off before. I don't know, however you want to put it, but there's basically like one roster spot for Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram, Jordan Hancock. Like, that's like one position. Or some other surprise where Dorian Strong is getting released or Darrick Forrest is getting released. And even if you include those two, you're talking like, hey, that's probably 3 roster spots for Dorian Strong, Dane Jackson, Darrick Forrest, Jamarcus Ingram, Cam Lewis, Jordan Hancock. And people are like, oh, well, that's got to be more than 3. Like, no, that's probably 3 roster spots. 3. And that just reverse engineering that, again, maybe there's one extra now because if depending on how they handle Max Harrison, but beyond that, like, so there's some guys here who are good enough to play on teams that are going to get released, and it's going to be cut down day trades are going to be back on the menu. I think we're going to see it on the offensive line. I think that we have more offensive linemen that we're going to be able to keep. I think the defensive line is going to be a little bit different because of the 2 suspensions. I think that's probably less likely than what it seemed before, but the way they're talking about Javon Solomon, maybe that's in play with some of the stuff here. I just think it's going to be really, really interesting to see in that DB room. You could pitch me 4 different combinations. I'd be, yeah, I could see it.
I agree.
All right. Bruce, any final thoughts for the people, or what do you have coming up next on the Bruce exclusive?
Well, by the time you're listening to this, if you're not listening to it live, then I will have a show out either shortly or right now. You can find the show, the Bruce exclusive, anywhere you find your podcasts, and it's called Optimal Prime. And the show is about what an optimal preseason would look like for the Buffalo Bills. And we talk about Cole Bishop in there. We talk about Maxwell Hairston in there. Some of the stuff that I talk about in the show, I actually talked about tonight. So, it's duplicate, but you're going to do it anyway because you love me. But aside from that, no, I'm hanging out, man. You know me. It's a party.
All the time. Party all the time.
All the time.
All right. We appreciate you, Bruce. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for coming to play with us.
No problem, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Later, man. All right, Aaron. It's my last show with you for a minute here. You get a little bit of a break going off on your nice family vacation, getting away. Are you packed and ready to go?
Almost. The car is pretty much packed. I still got a bunch of stuff to do. But yeah, we're leaving early, so I'm glad we're wrapping this one up early. I'm in vacation mode sort of already, but I'll just miss the 1 week. I do think I'm going to be on with Bulldog on Friday once I settle in. And I might try to sneak some equipment this year and surprise you and hop on the show if I'm able to. We'll see. No promises. But I might try to.
I'm not going to tell people. I've got an idea for next Wednesday's show that I'm going to try to pull together here. And but I got to wait and see if I get the right
debunking adequate defensive back.
Correct. Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it, but no, I'm gonna try to put together an AFC East roundtable, like AFC East division preview, and bring on a Patriots, Jets, and Dolphins person to kind of talk through, just to make them say nice things about the Bills. Really, is all I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say, and spoiler alert for that, I talked to a good friend of mine who's a Patriots fan today, and I had a lot of nice things to say to him. Like he was expecting me to crap on him because it's been like that for the last couple of years, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think of the Pats?" And I was like, "Honestly, I kind of like a lot of stuff. I hate to say it makes me feel gross saying it, but so that'll be fun for you."
The combination of anytime you make a really good coaching hire and then make like a bunch of reasonable value sign-ins in free agency and add
their draft
picks because they were terrible.
I liked a lot of drafts.
I liked a lot of the draft picks. Like, no, I mean,
I'm a Drake May fan.
It's not gonna matter, but like I'm happy for you. Like,
well, my thing was like, I think you're better than the Dolphins and the Jets. Like right now, I think
you could tell me that the Patriots are going to finish second, and I don't think it's crazy. And I think that they are going the right direction, and the Dolphins are going the wrong direction, and the Jets are going no direction.
Spinning
no direction
in a circle,
just spinning. So, all right, man, enjoy it. I will miss you greatly. I will be excited if you pop on and say hello, but we will take good care and welcome you back when you return.
Yeah, I'll still be around on the internet, so make sure you're following. Definitely gonna have the whole family tuning into Hard Knocks this year while we're gone and catching the games and stuff. And I know you're heading to the Red and Blue.
So excited. I'm doing like you. I'm doing a family trip. We're going. My parents, my sister and brother-in-law, my nephews, a whole bunch of family going to all watch together. So I'm excited to head up there on Friday. If I can't pull together the round table, I will cancel our show on Wednesday and I will just do a live reaction show to Hard Knocks.
Yes.
I'll just come on live after that.
I want Mama Tompsett on.
It's always fun.
There you go.
My mom's always in the chat. She's always there.
Yeah, get her on for me.
All right, guys.
All right, man.
We appreciate you. Again, quick shout out to our sponsor, Southern Tier Brewing Company and William Matar Law Offices. You guys know the slogan, hurt in the car, call William Matar, 844-444-4444. Make sure to check them out for all of your needs. But on behalf of fantastic producer Chris Kepner and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You are listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are